Hello, Cybersecurity. Hello, Dallin. Laura, good to see you this morning. Hope you had a restful weekend. Maybe got to watch a little football. Super Bowl in 2 weeks now. So Kansas City and San Francisco, it's set. It's some very interesting games yesterday. I got to watch most of all of it just because I don't really care who wins those games. I just wanted to see who's going to be in there. But so anyway, let's look at cybersecurity this week, see what we're going to be dealing with. Let's go to our grade screen. I didn't get my cyber terrorism lesson turned in. Fake student, you're failing here. Got a 0. All right, we're on security breaches this week, February 4th. That's this Sunday, 6.02 security breaches. Let's look at that lesson there. Security breaches. All right, so even with multiple security measures in place, cyber criminals are relentless. They work to gain access and steal information, result in security breach if successful. In this day and age, data is big business, right? So thieves continuously look for ways to steal personal information so they can exploit it or sell it, or even things like medical information. Let's look at some of the examples. By the way, speaking of security breaches, I have a Twitter account for the BWHS bowling team, right? So I have a Twitter set up that I have, and I log in, and I can post things from the bowling season on there. Every week, I'll get a notification from Twitter. Okay, was this you trying to log in? I have it set up where you have to enter a code. It emails me a code, and you have to enter that code to actually log in. But I got people that hack it, figure out my password, and log in, and it doesn't let them because of that second layer security that they enter the code that's equal to me. But people hack into that all the time. It's like, why are you hacking a Twitter account? There's nothing there that'd be beneficial to you. I don't know. Do people store credit card information on Twitter, or are they trying to get personal information? I don't know. But yeah, that gets constant attempts to get into my school Twitter account. So, all right, let's see. Look at some of the examples. Confidentiality. Confidentiality assures the information is available only to those authorized it, right? So this is that information leak security breach right over here on the right, information leak. Safeguards are encryptions and permission settings because, only certain people, for businesses, there's only certain people should be able to access certain information. And so hackers are trying to get in there and get information that they shouldn't have access to. And integrity, this is a tampering type of security breach. Integrity attacks include unauthorized data modification, going in and changing data in there, messing up the integrity of the data. Criminals seek to corrupt, damage, or destroy information or systems. These can be as simple as a subtle typo that nobody recognizes, or altering an entire document. So permissions and digital signatures are safeguards for that. Spoofing. Oh, yeah, that's a lot of that. Authenticity refers to the characteristics of communication documents and any data to ensure the quality being genuine. So passwords are ways to protect against that. Multi-factor authentication, digital signatures. That's where someone acts like they have authorization and they'll spoof it, or they'll get you to give you your password by acting like there's an actual real website. You think you're going to this website, but it's actually a spoof. It's a fake of that. And they're trying to get your information, your login information, so they can go to the real site and get into it. Accountability assures that the systems responsible for delivering, storing, and processing the information are accessible when required. This is called repudiation. Let's click on that word. That's a failure of an application or system to adopt controls to properly track and log users' actions. That allows malicious manipulation or forging of the identification of new actions. That's what repudiation means. So secure logging and auditing digital signatures are ways to protect against that. So, Let's look at page 2. Selecting the right safeguard. All right, so let's try this. Can you select the right safeguard for the job? Match the terms with the correct descriptions. And if correct, they'll reveal parts of a hidden image. Oh, we get a little hidden image behind this. Okay, so this is the only thing on this page. Permissions and digital signatures, authenticity, passwords and multi-factor authentication, encryption, permission settings, accountability, confidentiality, integrity, secure login, and auditing. Okay, so our 4 terms are authenticity, integrity, confidentiality, and accountability. And these are the ways to help protect against that. So the answer is back on page 1. We just looked at that. Did we get any of that? So let's, I don't know, pick one. Which one are you going to start with? What do you think is a match? How about passwords and multi-factor authentication? Would that be confidentiality? Would be authenticity, accountability, or integrity? What do you think, Laura?
Authenticity?
Let's try it. That's what I was thinking. I didn't remember for sure from the first page. Oh, it revealed part of the picture. All right. So far, so good. Let's see. Permissions and digital signatures. That was the one where they go in and they change things, like change documents and stuff. That's probably, let's see. I don't know. What do you think? Integrity? Because it messes up the integrity of the document where it's not right. Dallin thinks integrity. Yes, it is integrity. All right. Let's see. So we got encryption and permission settings and secure logging and auditing. So let's do secure logging and auditing up here. So we got confidentiality, or we got accountability. So encryption, permission settings, so secure logging and auditing. Auditing certainly makes you think accountability, right? When you audit things, you're trying to make sure it's accountable. Oh, we got it. Good job. Confidentiality then would be encryption, permission settings. Excellent work. Your brain is growing, it shows. So it makes us a little picture of data security. Good job, everyone. Good job. Let's go over here to page 3. All right, private branch exchange and wiretapping. One very common method of breaching security and intercepting data is wiretapping. Let's see what that definition is. The monitoring of telephone and internet-based conversations by a third party, often by covert means. You see that was like Watergate back in the 1970s, back before any of us really knew what was going on. That was when Richard Nixon was president, and they wiretapped like the Democrat National Headquarters. He was listening to phone calls from the other party, and that caused a lot of problems. And because that was huge at the time, and he ended up resigning from office and all that. Today, that's nothing compared to all of the lack of integrity that our politicians have. There are things they do nowadays that are much, much worse than wiretapping and listening to the phone calls of others. But that was huge then. Now it wouldn't even be a blip on the screen. But that's what wiretapping is. Criminals use a monitoring device to record private telephone, fax, or cell phone communications. And this still does happen. The monitoring device, or a bug, we heard, oh, my phone is bugged. We heard that phrase, is placed on a wire to record the information. So one popular way that organizations can prevent that, because that'd be important. If you're one of these big corporations, you're Walmart or something, you're trying to protect all your company secrets from your competitors, you need to make sure your phones aren't getting bugged. So you can use a private branch exchange, a PBX, or it's a set of private phone lines which separates networks for voice and data communications. So you're not sending data over your phone line, because you certainly don't want data to get taken in there. So you can use a private branch exchange. PBXs are often used in offices. Each user has a phone, and employees can call one another on an internal system. And lots of places have that. I mean, we have that here at the school. I have a phone here that I can either make a phone call to a business or a person, or I can just dial an extension just to ring another classroom. That doesn't go out into the phone system. AT&T or whoever runs the phones wouldn't have anything to do with that. That would just be a phone to phone inside of our private network. A PBX system also allows for call distribution, like you can transfer calls to other people, call transfer, conference calls, detailed records of incoming and outgoing calls. Yeah, somewhere in our system, they can get a log and find out every phone call I make and every phone call I receive. If you've ever made a call where you're asked if you know your party's extension, then you have encountered a PBX. They're very, very common. They're used all over the place, all medical offices, many businesses, very common. So how to securely deploy a PBX? All right, use strong passwords. Typically, a system will have passwords for extension registrations. That's when you're trying to set up the phone. You're installing a new phone in the system, so you'd have to have some password because you don't want a hacker to get in there and get into your system and add his own phone in there where he can listen to other calls. By the way, that is what these videos that we looked at over the last couple of weeks, like the ethical hackers, he does do that. He accesses their private phone network a lot of times and puts himself as a user in there, and he's able to listen in on calls that those people are making and trying to scam people. So that's how he's able to go into their system and see a log of all the calls they've made and received. He can see what the phone number is of the person that you're talking to. And he often has some of these where you can hear him listening to them trying to scam someone. And then he'll try to call that person and get them to hang up with the scammer. But he's basically hacking into their PBX. So we can see that in going on in real life. So very susceptible. If you know what you're doing, you can hack into there. So that's why they have passwords for all of that and stuff. But these hackers a lot of times aren't going to set up anything real complicated, and they can get into it. So password for extension registrations, the administration web interface, user web interfaces, voicemails, usually for passwords and all that. It's recommended to strong passwords of at least 8 characters with upper and lowercase, along with digits, numbers, whenever possible. And they should be changed every 2 to 3 months, because if someone's trying to hack it and has a computer running 24 hours a day trying to hack in there, eventually they're going to get your password. So you should scramble every 2 or 3 months, make them start over. And a PBX should be updated, have its firmware and software continuously updated, because there's all kinds of new patches. When you buy a PBX from a software company, they're going to find problems with it and send you updates. So you should keep it updated all the time. And the most recent update is often the most secure, because when a lot of times those patches and updates are because they found a vulnerability that people can exploit, and they fix those and send an update. So certain security features only work if the system has the latest update installed. All right, separate voice and data traffic. So separating those is commonly recognized as an effective method to help counter the VoIP security risks. The voice traffic and data traffic can be logically separated by a VLAN switch. And if one VLAN is penetrated, the others remain secure. So if they get into your voice network, they won't necessarily get all your data that you're transmitting, and vice versa. Avoid port forwarding, to where it automatically transfers it to another port. Port forwarding risks potential attacks by opening a hole in your firewall. So if somebody has access to one port and it automatically shifts them to another, and they could get past your firewall. So it's best to deploy a virtual private network device at both ends. Otherwise, utilizing the secure cloud service is a good option. All right, and then secure the line on the PBX. One of the most notable purposes of PBX hacking is to kidnap the phone line for expensive international calls. Maybe that's why they're trying to hack in there. They're going to make some calls, and they don't want to have to pay for those calls, and you'll suddenly get a bill and has all these international calls on there. So to prevent this, the easiest security practice is to restrict the use of outbound calls from each vulnerable endpoint and disallow anonymous incoming calls. So you can set some restrictions with your private phone network there to where people can't abuse it in certain ways there. Page 4. Okay, you decide. All right, so we got some scenarios to look at here. You just started your summer internship at the local hospital, and your job is to help the IT department maintain the hospital's private network. Your mission is to create the most secure PBX system possible. So scenario 1, you just received a help ticket that an employee turned in who's not able to send or receive calls on the PBX. What should you do first, A or B? Ask them to change their password or make sure the latest software patches have been installed. A or B? You can throw that in the chat if you like. What are we going to do first? Ellen says make sure the latest software patches have been. That's what I would expect, right? First, let's make sure, because the phone may be having trouble because we don't have it current. Answer is B. Remember, it's just like a computer. You should have the latest security patches installed and continuously updated. All right, good job there. All right, scenario 2. Your manager just held a meeting and discussed the hospital's latest phone bill. There were several very expensive charges where calls were placed overseas. What could be done to prevent this type of security breach in the future? Disallow anonymous incoming calls or separate your voice and data traffic. Someone hacked in and made calls internationally, charged it to the hospital. See, I got an A question mark and a B. Let's see. It is A. A PBX can be hijacked by attackers, so restrict the use of outbound calls from each endpoint and do not allow anonymous incoming calls. So obviously they had an incoming call, and when their incoming call anonymously, they were able to breach into the system and use that incoming call to connect to an outgoing line and make an outgoing call there. So yeah, it would be an incoming, because they wouldn't be in your building. They would have to call into your system and then be able to breach it so they can use it to call out. Scenario 3. You've just been tasked with creating a plan that will prevent holes from opening on the hospital firewall. Which of the following will ensure that the firewall is kept secure? Disable port forwarding or install the latest security patches? Well, we know we need to install the latest security patches, but will that help prevent holes from opening where they can go around your firewall? There's a hole, they can get through there. Well, disable port forwarding is where it talked about that, because they can get into a port, and if it allows it to automatically forward it to another port, that one may be behind your firewall. So yes, it is A. Keep the PBX up to date with the latest security patches and software, but however, disabling port forwarding settings on the router ensures that holes don't open up, because the security patches may not catch that, because if it allows it to forward a port automatically, the port is part of the network, so the firewall won't catch that you're trying to go around it because you're already in there. So don't let forward any port settings automatically. All right, so we learned a lot about phone system and network system this week. Let's go look at the assignment for this one. How many questions do we have this week? Which the following is used to prevent security breaches, like information leaks? Type of security breach involves a document being altered without permission. Blank is the type of security breach associated with authenticity. Blank ensures security logging and not auditing of authorized users. And Jason was hired an intern to set up a PBX. Which safeguards should he use to ensure the firmware and software are the most current versions? So, all right, there you go. 5 questions. Most of those are answered on page 1, I think, because that's where it gave us the bulk of the information. But the PBX is a little bit farther into the lesson. So, all right, interesting stuff. You probably know more about computer networks and stuff than you ever thought about before. We're learning good stuff here. So, all right, guys, that's it. Friday is a B day, so I'm here on Wednesday. If you need anything, I'll be in class. I will actually not be here on Friday. That's the bowling conference tournament. So if you email me on Friday, you may not hear from me until Monday. But otherwise, we'll see you guys next week.